Revealed, the miraculous journey of Moses' missing children and incredible divine plan exposed. In the 3rd year of Jehoiakim, the people of Israel found themselves wandering the wilderness. The sun set low, casting a golden hue upon the camp, but among the light, shadows loomed, the shadow of uncertainty, of despair. Whispers spread like wildfire through the multitude, revealing a haunting truth. Children had been left behind in the chaos of their exodus from Egypt, fractured families scattered in the tumultuous escape from bondage. Desperation settled over the encamped multitude like a thick fog, knotting their hearts with fear. As Moses ascended a hill to address the gathered tribes, he could hear their murmurs, laden with sorrow. People of Israel, have we not seen our God orchestrate wonders? Have we not witnessed his deliverance? He called, his voice striving against the rising tides of doubt. Yet, even he felt the weight of their lost children, a heavy burden sinking his heart. He sought divine guidance, keenly aware that hope was wavering. Night fell, cloaking the camp in silence. Deep in the stillness, Moses retreated to his tent, closing the world out as he hit his knees. "O Lord," he cried out in anguish, recalling the covenant promises spoken from the burning bush, pleading for answers. "Will you forsake those little ones? Are they not part of the promise you made to our forefathers?" As if answering his most desperate questions, a light filled the dim tent. "Moses," the voice of Yahweh thundered softly, yet with unmistakable clarity. "Fear not, for I have not forgotten any of my children. I will guide their paths and bring them back to you in my own timing." Renewed strength surged through Moses, illuminating his spirit with hope. At dawn, he summoned the leaders of the tribes, sharing the promise he had received from the Almighty. Together, they resolved to march again, not to abandon their cause, but to seek those they had lost in faith. Before we continue with this incredible biblical account, I want to make sure you don't miss any of these powerful scripture stories. Click the bell icon and select all notifications. These biblical narratives have transformed countless lives throughout history. If God's word through this story is blessing you, please like and share with someone who needs to hear about God's faithfulness today. Tell me in the comments, which biblical story has most impacted your faith journey? I'm always amazed how God's word speaks to hearts across generations. Now let's continue with what the Lord did next. With each step into the wilderness, the Israelite caravan pressed forward, the rustling of sand a reminder of their dependence on God's faithfulness. With each passing day, they observed the miraculous provision of manna falling from heaven, recalling how he had parted the Red Sea and led them through trials past. Yet, the urgency of discovering their lost children weighed heavily on Moses' heart, a question unspoken yet lingering in the air. Tragedy and triumph began to wove together as they journeyed deeper into the vast and daunting expanse of wilderness. Tension was thick, for the promise of restoration created a flickering warmth against the chill of uncertainty. And as they moved deeper into the ominous vastness, a flash of light pierced through the wilderness, captivating Moses' attention. A divine escort? A beacon of hope? What awaited beyond that light? Would they find the missing children? The questions echoed in Moses' heart as he felt the gravity of their quest, a physical journey tied inexorably to their spiritual longing for divine intervention. The mysterious glow drew nearer, hinting at something extraordinary to come. What magnificent revelation awaited them, and how would God's promise manifest in the hearts of those they sought? As Moses approached the radiant light, he felt both trepidation and hope clasp his heart. The air shimmered with divine presence, and he could scarcely take a breath. "What is this, O Lord?" he whispered, his eyes fixed upon the luminescence. It was unlike any fire he had encountered, producing no heat yet illuminating the unseen, as if beckoning him towards the profound depths of God's mercy. The light unfolded, revealing before Moses a great multitude of children, their faces radiant with innocence, yet tinged with uncertainty. Each child bore the markings of their tribe, and it became clear that what he beheld were indeed the missing children of Israel, gathered together as though they had awaited the moment of reunion. "Moses," a voice called out, sweeter than honey, stirring his spirit. It was the voice of Miriam, his sister. "We have been sheltered here, guided by the protecting hand of the Lord. Do not be afraid, for in our absence he has tended to our needs. Tears welled in Moses' eyes as he surveyed the faces of the little ones. Miriam, how is it that you are here? He exclaimed, stepping forth, arms stretched wide. But we have been separated, and you were meant to seek us. Why do you hesitate? Miriam replied, her voice a gentle reminder of unity amidst the trials. Children of Israel, come forth. Moses called, the authority of their leader igniting the hearts of those nearby. One by one, they approached him, clasping his hands, their small fingers intertwining with his, each touch pulsating with the warmth of belonging. As the joy of reunion filled the air, the Lord's voice resonated through the wilderness, commanding stillness. This gathering is not merely a rescue, it is a testimony of my covenant, declared Yahweh, shaking the very foundations of their faith. Just as I called you out of Egypt, I have preserved those who were vulnerable and overlooked. Know that they will rise and lead others in worship, for I have great purpose hidden within them. Moses looked around, scarcely able to comprehend the incredible mystery unfolding before him. What shall we do next, O Lord? He asked, the heavy mantle of leadership both starting to lift and deepen in his burden. Send them to their families, the Lord commanded with clarity, and as you march forth, the promise of the land before you shall be fulfilled. Each child will carry with them the songs of faith, the stories of refuge and salvation. They are not lost, they have been nurtured by my provision. Teach them my ways, and they will be the flame that lights your path. Moses' heart soared with a renewed fervor. He now understood that their journey into the wilderness was as much about restoration as it was about salvation. The children, once scattered, were now a unity reshaped by divine hands, promising to transform the hearts of the people. As the sun began to rise over the horizon, filling the world with its golden hue, Moses gathered the children and prepared to return to the camp. Yet as they began their journey back, a hush fell over the assembly, for a growing tremor rumbled through the earth beneath them. What is this? One of the elders whispered, eyes wide with a mix of apprehension and awe. It is the sound of things yet unseen, responded Moses, feeling the depth of God's unfolding plan igniting beneath their very feet. And with these words anchoring his soul, Moses began to recognize that the magnificent work of God was far from complete. The promised land awaited them, but with it, a challenge appeared, a shadow of looming warfare as the faithful would be tested against those who claimed dominion over the land. Indeed, the steadfast love of the Lord endures forever, Moses declared, emboldened. But what lies ahead may yet unveil a deeper purpose in God's plan, a purpose that would necessitate the testing of faith and the proving of his power. And thus, their march resumed, hearts filled with hope, yet laced with the foreboding of battle. For in the coming trials, the Lord would not only deliver his people, but would convey upon them the responsibility of faithfulness. What would become of them in the land of promise? Would their faith remain steadfast against the forces that sought to tear them asunder? The answers lay beyond the horizon, shrouded in the divine mystery of his sovereign will. As the sun stretched higher into the azure sky, casting radiant beams upon the weary travelers, Moses felt a renewed urgency surge within him. The children of Israel, now reunited with their little ones, stepped forward, their hearts buoyed by the sweet echoes of hope. Yet, in the recesses of his spirit, the tremors of adversity echoed louder, a reminder of the shadowed path that lay ahead. Gather by the waters of Marah, Moses proclaimed, leading them onward through the undulating sands. The Lord has commanded us to prepare our hearts, for the land we seek has warriors yet unmoved, and giants yet to be confronted. We shall strengthen our resolve. And as they neared the waters, the air grew thick with the fragrance of blooming acacia and the whispers of the past. A memory flickered in Moses' mind of bitter waters once encountered, a reminiscent sorrow filled with the lessons of trust and obedience. Yet the Lord had spoken. If you listen closely to the voice of the Lord your God, and do what is right in his eyes, then I will not bring on you any of the diseases I brought on the Egyptians, for I am the Lord, who heals you. Exodus 15 verse 26. Moses raised his staff, striking the surface of the mysterious waters, and in that moment, the earth trembled anew. The waters yielded, becoming as sweet as the honey upon their lips. The children drank eagerly, laughter bubbling forth from their hearts as they found sustenance from bitterness transformed. Praise be to God! The elders exclaimed, their voices woven together in songs of gratitude. Yet, amidst the joy, a shadow of concern lingered in the forefront of Moses' heart. He sensed a rising tide of uncertainty among the people as the reality of their future dawned upon them. "Do not falter," he called out. "For the Lord has brought us this far, and he will continue to lead us. His promise remains true." As they settled to rest, a hush fell over the assembly. The children nestled closer to their parents, their eyes glimmering with a mixture of innocence and expectation. The elders exchanged anxious glances, the shadows of former days whispering in their bones. "What shall we say to those who doubt, Moses?" one elder asked, concern etching deep lines across his weathered face. "The giants of fear and uncertainty loom larger than the promise of our God." With resolve, Moses stood before them, recalling the words of the Lord, "Fear not, for I have redeemed you. I have summoned you by name. You are mine." Isaiah 43 verse 1. "We shall make a lasting altar here, a testament to God's faithfulness, that those who come after us may witness and remember." Together they built an altar of stones, each rock a memorial to the God who brought life from death and restoration from despair. As the sun dipped towards the horizon, the sky ablaze with the colors of his glory, Moses offered prayers on behalf of his people. "Lord, help us to trust where we cannot see, to follow boldly where you lead us." There, amongst the humbled stones, the voice of the Lord spoke once more, filling the hearts of all present with a profound sense of purpose. "Behold, I am about to do a new thing. Now it springs forth. Do you not perceive it? I will make a way in the wilderness and rivers in the desert." Isaiah 43 verse 19. Tears streamed down Moses' cheeks as hope surged. "Yes, Lord. Renew within us the strength to face the unknown." Yet, even as he spoke, a distant rumble echoed through the air, a reminder that the promised land was guarded by formidable powers yet to be encountered. The Israelites would soon find those who held it captive, forces eager to challenge their faith. "Look beyond the horizon," Moses said, turning towards where the mountains met the sky. "A battle is looming, and the hands of God shall be upon us. He has greater plans than we can comprehend." As twilight fell, enveloping the assembly in a serene stillness, the children began to sing, their once fearful hearts now a chorus of unyielding faith. Unbeknownst to them, the true battles were yet to come, yet so was the revelation of hope, each note a quiet proclamation that their journey, both sacred and sacredly intertwined with the divine, was but the beginning of unfolding mysteries. For even now, as the stars began to twinkle, God's sovereign plan lay just beyond their grasp, waiting to burst forth in glory with an unveiling that would change forever the very fabric of their faith, a revelation that the true promised land awaited, gleaming in the distance, guarded yet surmountable for those who believe. As dawn broke over the horizon, painting the world in shades of gold and crimson, Moses awoke with a fervent spirit. The echoes of the night's songs danced in his heart, mingling with an urgent weight of responsibility. The promise of the Lord lingered like incense in the air, reminding him that they were on a divine mission toward a land flowing with milk and honey. "Arise, O Israel," Moses declared, his voice ringing with strength and conviction. "The Lord has prepared a path before us. Gather your provisions, for today we press forward into the unknown." The people stirred with anticipation, their hearts beating as one, yet a quiet trepidation clung to some. Mothers clasped their children's hands tightly, while fathers exchanged looks of determination and fear, aware that the wilderness was not a friend but a silent witness to their trials. As the crowds began to move, a voice rose among them, questioning Moses, "How can we trust in the promise of abundance when wilderness surrounds us? Will the Lord truly guide us to victory?" The air thickened with uncertainty, and Moses turned to the source of the doubt, a young warrior with shadows in his eyes. "Hear me," Moses replied, a calm authority in his tone. Have you not witnessed the miracles of the Lord? The plagues of Egypt, the parting of the sea, the sweet waters of Mara, these are not the actions of a distant God, but of a living God who walks among us. Yet giants await us, the man pressed, fear clutching at his heart. How will we overcome them? Without hesitation, Moses raised his staff, the emblem of God's power, and responded, "With every step we take, we remember his faithfulness. We shall face the giants, not in our own strength, but in the strength of the one who goes before us." So they journeyed on, the sound of footsteps reverberating against the vast tapestry of the desert. The sun climbed higher, scorching their skins but igniting their spirits with hope. As they moved deeper into the wilderness, hunger began to arise among the children. The cries of the little ones pierced through the air, prompting the elders to murmur among themselves, concern painted on their faces. "Moses, we are in dire need of sustenance." One elder spoke, desperation creeping into his voice. "The people are weary and fear they shall perish." Moses fell to his knees, raising his arms toward heaven. "Lord, we stand in need of your provision. Remember your promise to sustain us." In that moment, the heavens stirred. A gentle breeze swirled about them, and the atmosphere thickened with anticipation. As if responding to his plea, a cloud descended, hovering above the heads of the Israelites. From it, a miraculous rain of bread began to fall. "Behold!" Moses shouted, his voice triumphant. "The Lord provides. This is the manna from heaven." Gasps of wonder swept through the assembly as they rushed to gather the heavenly food that danced upon the desert floor. Children laughed, their spirits revived, and the elders bowed in reverence, knowing that this was a sign of God's abiding presence and care. Yet the cloud lingered, pulsing with the heartbeat of hope. And in a whisper, the Lord spoke to Moses again, "My servant, there is more to this journey than you perceive. I am preparing your hearts for what is yet to come, for the land and the trials ahead shall mold your faith into something unshakable." Moses felt the weight of prophecy resting heavily upon him, a sacred burden of divine purpose that would lead his people to unimaginable heights. The tension in the air hummed with possibilities, a reminder of both the uncertainties they faced and the unwavering truth that God was with them. As the sun dipped low, casting long shadows over the camp, Moses stood again before the people. "Prepare yourselves, for the journey is just beginning. The trials will refine us, the battles will galvanize us, and together we will see the deliverance of the Lord." With a new vigor, they lifted their voices in praise, a sound that echoed through the canyons, resounding with the truth of God's goodness. Unbeknownst to them, beyond the mountains, the guardians of the promised land awaited, unaware that their hold was slipping. Little did the Israelites know that the greatest revelation of all was still hidden, waiting for the moment God would unfold his sovereign plan, a plan woven intricately into the tapestry of time, destined to change not just their lives, but the very foundation of faith itself. As the cool breath of evening wrapped around them, the Israelites gathered beneath the overarching canopy of stars, their spirits buoyed by the miraculous provision of the manna. The twilight painted their faces in soft hues, yet beneath the surface, a current of uncertainty still washed over them. Questions lingered in hushed tones, as hearts wrestled with doubt and hope entwined. "Moses!" cried Miriam, the sister of the prophet, her voice firm yet gentle. "What shall we do when the bread is no longer enough? Will the Lord abandon us in our time of need? Are we to wander endlessly in this bareness?" Moses looked upon her with compassion. "Sister, the Lord's provision is both for our bodies and our souls. He has delivered us from bondage. He shall not leave us in want. Trust in his goodness, for he has promised us a land where abundance flows." With his words, Moses summoned the vibrant memory of the Lord's oath to their ancestors. "For I know the plans I have for you, declares the Lord, plans to prosper you and not to harm you, plans to give you hope and a future." Jeremiah 29 verse 11. Yet, even as he spoke, he felt the weight of his own fears entwining with his faith. In the days that followed, the people found themselves enduring the barren wilderness. The manna fell like heavy rain each morning, yet whispers of discomfort echoed louder with each passing night. Some among them stirred with nostalgia, longing for the flesh pots of Egypt, while others bore the scars of worry for their children, frail and famished in the dry sands. Days stretched into weeks, each sunrise a reminder of their fragile existence. The trials began to shape a growing resolve within them, a fire stoked by their nightly gatherings, while a few still grappled with shadows of despair. One evening, as Moses ascended the hill to speak with God, he sensed a stirring among his people below. The air crackled with anticipation, and he quietly listened as voices echoed through the camp. "Who will fight for us?" cried an elder among them, leaning on a staff bearing years of struggle. "Who will lead us into battle against those we cannot see?" A murmur of uncertainty rippled through the crowd. "Yes," chimed in another voice, "we must know who will protect us from the giants of the land." From the heights, Moses felt the ground beneath him tremble with the weight of their aspirations and fears. Surely the Lord must speak to his heart. As he bowed low, an answer welled up from deep within him. "The Lord your God is the one who goes with you to fight for you against your enemies to give you victory." Deuteronomy 20 verse 4. He turned to them, bolstered by the promise of the Almighty, and said, "Fear not, for the Lord fights for us, and we shall stand firm in his mighty power." The sparks of courage began to dance in their hearts, igniting a fervor for entering the land promised to them. With renewed strength, the chorus of faith rose up in the camp, shattering the weight of despair. As night surrendered to dawn, and the clouds gathered with purpose above, Moses led the people deeper into the wilderness. Each footfall carried the echoes of the covenant, a divine reminder of the destiny yet to unfold. The gathering storm overhead mirrored the throbbing anticipation that coursed through their veins, a bold promise that pointed to deliverance beyond comprehension. Yet on the fringes of their camp lay the mysteries of the deceived land, caught unseen in the fist of history. What awaited them would surpass their wildest imaginings: giants and riches, fortresses and faith. But what they did not know was that as they marched toward destiny, in the shadowed corners of the earth, another divine plan was beginning to stir, a plan that would entwine their story with nations, prophets, and the very heart of God himself, beckoning them ever closer to the revelation of the sovereign Lord's ultimate design for humanity. As the days wore on, the wilderness continued to stretch endless before the Israelites. Each morning brought the sweet taste of manna, a sign of God's unwavering care. Yet, as evening cloaked the land once more, an unsettling stillness settled over the camp. Whispers of longing turned to shouts of impatience, and soon the people's hearts became heavy with doubt. "Moses!" came a multitude of cries, as voices blended into a cacophony of distress. "We are weary. The land flows with milk and honey, yet here we are, wandering as lost sheep in a desolate wilderness." Moses climbed higher upon the rocky outcropping, his spirit entwined with the urgency of their cries. He lifted his hands towards heaven, beseeching the Almighty with fervor. "Lord, how long shall this trial continue? Speak to your people, for their hearts are weary." And in that sacred moment, the clouds parted and a great wind swept through the camp. Thunder rumbled in the distance, reverberating like a heartbeat of the Lord. As the sky darkened, the voice of God thundered down like a clarion call, "I have heard the cries of my people." Moses stood trembling, yet emboldened, aware that this was not merely a moment of grief, but a divine opportunity for deliverance. "Lord, what is your command?" "Gather the elders and all the people before me," came the response, powerful as the gale. "For I shall reveal my sovereign plan to you. Tell them I remember my covenant with Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. I shall bring them into a land of promise, even one flourishing with all goodness. But first, they must learn to trust in my provision." Moses' heart raced. The weight of history clung to him with each word he received. "O Lord, what shall we do then?" "Take the choicest men from among them," God instructed, "and send them to spy out the land I have given. Allow them to witness the blessings that await and to gather strength for the journey ahead." With renewed vigor, Moses gathered the 12 leaders from each tribe at dawn's first light. "Hear me, O valiant warriors. We are called to explore the land of Canaan, promised to us by the Lord. May the wisdom of the Almighty guide you, for there is much to uncover." As the men took up their staffs and provisions, A sense of excitement rang within their hearts, mingling with trepidation. They ventured forth into the unknown, eyes wide with anticipation, and hope surged through the camp. Yet amidst their joyful expectancy, shadows loomed. Giants resided in that land, fierce and mighty. Days passed as the spies traversed mountains and valleys, returning to the encampment with evidence of the land's richness. Grapes weighed heavy on branches, figs bloomed in abundance, and the promise of nectar flowed freely. Yet the ingenuity of fear had taken root in their hearts, for they returned with divided messages. "The land is bounteous, surely," muttered 10 of the spies, "yet the inhabitants are like giants, and we are but grasshoppers in their sight." Contrasting sharply, Caleb and Joshua's voices rose as stalwart beacons of faith. "Let us go up at once and conquer it, for we are well able to overcome it." Their radiant conviction clashed against the wall of disbelief that loomed in the hearts of their brethren. Moses, listening to the uproar, felt the weight of despair descend once more. The murmurs of rebellion began to bubble up, tempting the people toward discontent. "What shall I say to the Lord?" he pondered inwardly as the cries fell upon his ears. But the Almighty was not unmindful of their plight. As the crowd shifted restlessly, a great veil seemed to lift. God's voice echoed amongst them, firm yet filled with grace. "This generation shall see my mighty acts, yet they shall not enter the promised land. I shall raise a new line, one that will trust in me and know my faithfulness." Night fell over the camp, the dark skies heavy with sorrow and uncertainty. Yet, unbeknownst to them all, God was weaving a tapestry of grace and redemption, for within this turmoil lay the seeds of a greater purpose destined for a nation, a revelation directly from his own heart, which would echo through ages and generations. The dawn would come, unveiling his intentions in ways they could not yet fathom. The air grew thick with anxious whispers as the night deepened. Fear took hold among the people, gnawing at their faith like a ravenous beast. The tales of giants echoed in the hearts of the Israelites, drowning out the sweet memories of God's provision. The tent swayed under the weight of despair, and grief settled like a shroud. Moses, burdened by the weight of the people's doubts, sought the Lord in fervent prayer. The camp lay silent, save for the rustling of leaves and the distant howls of the wilderness. "Lord," he cried into the night, "what shall I tell them? They are terrified, their hearts hardened against your promise." With a blazing light, the presence of the Lord encircled Moses. "Go to the people, speak to them as I command. Remind them of my mighty hand and the miracles they have witnessed since their deliverance from Pharaoh. Reinforce their trust, for I am with them, and I will not forsake them." Moses, filled with renewed strength, climbed up before the assembly. "O children of Israel, hear the words of the Lord. Our God has been faithful, delivering us from bondage with signs and wonders. Remember the plagues of Egypt, the crossing of the Red Sea, and the sustenance of manna from heaven." Yet, the voices of dissent did not cease. "How can we, Moses? Look at the giants. Are we to face them? We wish we had remained in Egypt rather than die in this wilderness." The sobs and laments grew louder, each voice steeped in fear. But as the turmoil continued, Caleb, his spirit ablaze, stood and called out, "Silence. What are we comparing? The giants are mere shadows against the power of our God. Do not rebel against him. We are able to take the land." Joshua supported him, standing firm. "The Lord is with us. Fear not, let us rise up and seize what has been promised. The land is good, a gift from our God." A tense silence fell as the eyes of the assembly darted between the brave declarations and the grieving whispers. The hand of the Lord stretched forth in that moment, radiating divine authority. "My people," sounded the voice of God once more, resolute yet tender, "do not harden your hearts. This rebellion against my promise will not be without consequence." The heaviness of God's warning settled in their hearts as the breath of his Spirit stilled the chaos. "This generation will wander for 40 years, but your children shall inherit the land. I will raise a new generation in whom my Spirit shall dwell, and they will rise, ready to claim what is theirs." The air crackled with divine energy as Moses felt both weight and relief. He turned to the people, his heart yearning for their understanding. "Even now, the Lord is calling you to faith, to rise anew. Trust in his promises, for his ways are far greater than ours. He knows the path, and it is good. Yet amid the stirring hopefulness, the bitterness lingered and doubt brewed. The people, still grappling with fear, now sensed the gravity of their choice. Moses, feeling the tug of anxiety with every breath, knew they stood at a crossroads. With dawn threatening to break, shadows stretched and darkness lingered, but a flicker of hope ignited among the multitudes. "You will not see your inheritance, but know this," Moses proclaimed, "God's plan is perfect. His promise will not fail. For within the turning of this trial lies the seeds of something glorious, a heritage born from faith, rising from the ashes of doubt." As the sun crested the horizon, rays of light mingled with shadows, illuminating their path ahead. The Israelites stood silent, the weight of Moses' words sinking deep into their hearts. Unbeknownst to them, beyond the horizon, a divine strategy unfolded. God was working something more incredible than their eyes could perceive. As the sun ascended, so too would rise a generation of faith, destined to step into the promise of the land flowing with milk and honey. It was a new beginning, and the unfolding of his sovereign plan was just taking shape, preparing to reveal a legacy blessed beyond measure. As the sun poured its golden light upon the encampment, a new day dawned in the hearts of Israel. Yet, amidst the gentle warmth that caressed the weary faces of the Israelites, a cloud of anguish loomed. The reality of their father's words echoed in their minds. They were destined to wander, while their children would inherit the promise. Moses stood at the threshold of advocacy and despair, feeling the weight of divine judgment upon the people. He gathered the elders of Israel and said, "Consider carefully the words of the Lord, who commands us to remain steadfast in faith. Let us remember his mighty works and trust in his promise, even when our eyes deceive us." Gathered around him, the leaders listened intently, some still wrestling with fear that threatened to consume their spirit. Yet, deep beneath the surface of their conflict, a flicker of yearning ignited. They strove to reconcile the daunting giants with God's past deliverances. Caleb, filled with an unyielding resolve, addressed the assembly once more. "The Lord has not abandoned his people. He placed us here for a reason. Will we not trust him to fight for us? A land without giants awaits us. We must rally our spirits and pursue the inheritance promised." The people murmured, conflicting emotions surging. Some felt captivated by Caleb's fervor, while others remained ensnared by doubt. As the tumult of voices escalated, Moses cried out, "Children of Israel, hold fast to hope. How many times has the Lord shown his faithfulness? Did he not part the sea? Did he not lead us as a pillar of cloud by day and fire by night?" A hush fell, and silence became an echo of contemplation. The air shimmered with the presence of the Almighty, and clouds seemed to part as the sun glimmered upon the faces of the assembly, reminding them of the divine guidance that paved their way. God was calling forth a new spirit, a spirit ignited in courage, where fear would not dominate. Yet, the shadow of rebellion was not easily dispelled. A faction rose, their hearts hardened and voices loud. "What shall we have to eat in this barren land? We will die here with no inheritance, forgotten by God." They wailed, their cries resounding through the valley. Moses fell to his knees, interceding for the people with passionate tears, beseeching the Lord. "O God, do not allow their fear to silence your glory among us. For we are but dust and need your mercies to restore and uplift us." In that sacred moment, the Lord spoke as the earth trembled beneath his might. "Moses, say to my people, they will face trials, yes. But I will make a way out of no way. By day, I will be with them. By night, I will guide their steps. Their children shall rise, they will know my name, and they will be my people as I am their God." Moses relayed these words, stirring renewed strength in the hearts of the fearful. Remember, beloved ones, we are compelled to trust past the visible, to believe beyond what we perceive. For in this covenant journey, God is not absent, he is forging destinies. As whispers of hope replaced fear within the throng, a sense of anticipation fell over the camp. Some began to join in singing praises to the Lord, their voices rising in unity, a beautiful melody of worship amidst chaos. Yet, unbeknownst to them, the greatest trials lay yet ahead. For through their journey, a revelation was brewing. A great legacy was to emerge from their struggle. Even amid uncertainty, the hand of God was crafting something miraculous. In the distance, the silhouette of their future awaited. Would they embrace the divine tapestry woven in the loom of trials? Would they see, at last, what God had in store, a promise birthed not only in the lands before them, but also in the hearts of the generations that would follow? Each step forward led them closer to an unimaginable revelation of His glory, a sovereign plan unfolding, a legacy yet to be known. As the sun climbed high and cast its radiant glow upon the weary Israelite camp, hearts were stirred anew. The sound of song and worship mingled with the whisper of the wind as the people sought to lift their eyes from their fears to the heavens. Yet, in the midst of celebration, shadows of uncertainty loomed. Doubt lingered like a fog, threatening to suffocate the flickering flame of their faith. Moses, ever the shepherd of his people, called for silence. "Hear, O Israel! The Lord your God has spoken. You are not alone in your trials. He walks among you, and His promise shall not return void." Among the crowd stood Joshua, who had listened intently. He stepped forward, emboldened. "Moses, let us send men ahead to scout the land, to see its richness, that we may bolster the hearts of our brothers and sisters with knowledge of its abundance." Moses nodded, taking heed of Joshua's spirit. He knew that faith must be fueled by confidence and clarity. "Let us appoint 12 men, one from each tribe, to explore the land, to glean its fruits and report back." The assembly erupted in agreement, and excitement filled the air like the sweet aroma of harvest. The appointed men journeyed, their hearts beating with a mix of excitement and trepidation as they ventured into the land of Canaan, a land flowing with milk and honey. For 40 days they explored, traversing hills and valleys, tasting the fruits and gathering evidence of God's promise. Upon their return, the 12 men carried with them clusters of grapes so abundant that 2 of them bore the weight between a pole. The sight sparked awe among the people, but soon visions of giants and fortified cities crept into the report. 10 of the spies, trembling with fear, proclaimed, "The land is indeed fruitful, yet the inhabitants are mighty, and their cities are fortified. We felt like grasshoppers before them." Caleb and Joshua, however, stood resolute against the tide of despair. "The land is ours to take. For if the Lord is pleased with us, He will give it to us, a land where we can thrive." Their voices quaked, battling against the storm of fear that threatened to overtake the assembly. But the influence of the 10 echoed loudly, stoking the embers of fear into a raging inferno. The people cried out against Moses and Aaron, desperate for their old lives in Egypt to quell their uncertainty. "Would that we had died in Egypt, or even here in this wilderness. It would be better to choose a leader and return." Moses fell prostrate, pleading again with God for His mercies. The Lord spoke, His voice thunderous yet filled with compassion. "How long will these people reject me? How long will they not believe in me, in the signs which I have performed among them?" Moses, understanding the weight of their transgression, interceded for the stubborn hearts of Israel, reminding God of His covenant promises. The Lord relented, declaring, "Because you have spoken against me, those who doubted shall not see the land I swore to their forefathers. But Caleb and Joshua, they shall enter, for they have followed me wholeheartedly." And thus a decree of wandering was spoken. A generation would fall in the wilderness, yet their children would rise to inherit the promise. God's plan was unfolding, and each challenge was a brushstroke in His masterpiece. Would Israel comprehend the significance of trust amid despair? Or would they squander their birthright due to fear? The legacy of the faithful and the rebellious was in the balance, the divine tapestry weaving ever tighter. In every heartbeat of hesitation, God's sovereign will was leading them closer to a revelation magnificent beyond imagination. A destiny, yet unforeseen, awaits just beyond the horizon. As the stars began to fade with the incoming dawn, the Israelites stood at the threshold of their next great trial, a wilderness thick with uncertainty and a promise that now loomed like a distant mirage. The air hung heavy, saturated with doubt and whispers of rebellious hearts longing for the flesh pots of Egypt, where the familiar earth had once cradled them like little ones. Yet among the murmurs, the voice of God lingered like a sweet melody, reminding them of the covenant made to Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. Moses gazed out over the encampment, where the shadows of fear battled against the glimmers of hope. "People of Israel," he called, his voice carrying over the throng. "Have we not known the hand of our God? Have we not been witnesses of his wonders? The mighty acts that have delivered us should embolden us to press forward, to claim his promise." But the bitterness of doubt twisted in many hearts. A wave of discord surged, rising like a tempest. "We cannot fight the giants in the land. We are but grasshoppers in their sight. Would it not be better to return to the safety of our past?" Agitated voices filled the air, drowning the calls for faith. Caleb pushed through the throng, his spirit aflame. "How long will you allow fear to chain your hearts? The land is ours for the taking. We will rise, for the Lord is with us. Do not fear what the eye cannot see." Joshua stood steadfast beside him. "Yes, let us remember who fights for us. If the Lord delights in us, we shall prevail. The giants will not crush us, they are but shadows before the might of our God." Yet, as hopeful as their declarations were, the crowd remained enshrouded in doubt. The dark undertones of rebellion prevailed as they threatened to cast Moses and Aaron from their leadership. The anguish of Moses pierced through, a burden of intercession caught in the web of uncertainty. He fell upon his face, beseeching the Lord with tears of anguish, "O Lord, let not this people perish, extend your mercy upon them." And the Lord spoke, his voice echoing through the depths of Moses' soul. "My servant, I have indeed heard the cries of my people and their hardened hearts. I will not turn from my covenant, nor from their rebellion. They shall see the consequences of their unwillingness to trust me, yet I will be with them still." Moses rose with renewed urgency. "Hear me, people. God has declared that this rebellion holds weight, but your children shall inherit the promise. Instead of dwelling on past fears, you must teach them faith, for they shall rise and be the generation that enters the land flowing with milk and honey." As dawn's light spilled golden rays over the camp, the weight of his words began to settle. Some hearts stirred with regret and resolve, pushing back against lingering fear. The elders exchanged glances, sensing the gravity of the moment, a moment that would shape generations. "Then let us build a monument here," an elder proposed, voice resonant. "Let it stand as a testament to the Lord's mercy and our covenant with him. For we will not forget what he has promised." So, amidst the stillness of dawn, they gathered stones, each one representing a moment of divine intervention and faith rekindled. As the altar rose, Moses urged them to remember the promise threaded through their ancestry. "Just as the Lord has preserved us, he will preserve us still." With hearts united, they raised their voices in praise, a chorus swept forth from a people once trembling, now emboldened by recalled faith. And as they sang, a mighty gust of wind brushed over them, fragrant with the breath of the Almighty and a reminder of his presence. With no further delay, the time to journey renewed approached. "Arise, O Israel," Moses commanded, a fire igniting in his chest. "We move forward together in faith, hand in hand, for we are called to inhabit the promise and conquer every giant that stands in our path." As they marched, smiles began to grace weary faces, hope flickering like fireflies amidst their ascent towards destiny. In that moment, they realized they were not merely moving towards a land, they were being crafted into a people, the people of the covenant. Days turned into weeks and the trials intensified. Yet, with each challenge, they drew nearer to the fullness of God's promise. The children played, wide-eyed and innocent, unknowingly carrying the anchor of unity, a promise that would transcend their immediate fears. Then came a moment of unforeseen strength, as the Lord's voice echoed once more, "Prepare yourselves." A resounding clarity gripped their hearts. They began to understand that their journey was not simply an exodus or a battle for land, but a deeper discovery of faith, a revelation of his unwavering love. Time passed, and at the appointed hour, the gates of the promise were within their sight. "Behold," whispered a leader, "the land is before us. Let us proclaim the greatness of our God, for his faithfulness remains forever." And Moses stood, gazing at the promised horizon, knowing deep within that the journey marked a profound milestone, a new beginning forged through trials and triumph, where faith would emerge unshakable, destined to impact not just a nation, but the very heart of mankind. The legacy was set in motion, the divine plan poised to unfold through the hearts of this new generation. And as they prepared to walk into the promise, the Spirit of the Lord illuminated their path, urging them ever forward, for the best was yet to come. In the fullness of His time, they would inherit the land, but more importantly, they would inherit the knowledge of the Lord as their God, walking together in faith, a people renewed. And now, dear friends, as you meditate on this sacred journey, consider your own walk of faith. Trust in God's promises and share the living truth of His Word. If you felt the power of this biblical truth impacting your spirit today, you need to subscribe now to stay connected to God's Word. Leave a like so we can help spread His message through the algorithm to all who seek the light. Comment your reflections and how this incredible journey of Moses inspired you, and share this powerful testimony with at least 5 friends who need to be reminded of God's unwavering faithfulness. Together, let us reach more souls for Christ and forever embrace the journey of faith we are called to walk.